pretty sure he's going to set both. That's what I would do.
Hello and welcome back to the top 32 of the European Championships here in Berlin. Still with Matt Bell.
I'm still here, still awake.
I'm still rocking.
I'm still raring to go. I mean, the chicken nuggets I ate a little earlier is slowing me down, but
yeah,
we're doing this.
Yeah.
We're doing this. Top 32.
I hope the guys didn't hear that back home. If you do, shield your ears.
Bit late.
Put it.
It's already happened.
Yeah, a bit late. It's a bit late. Sorry.
Continue,
anyway,
please.
Oh, yeah, the match.
About that.
Yeah, about the match. So we have some pretty interesting deck that we were unable to feature right up until the top cut.
So just to give you a bit of explanation on why we don't feature that. In Europe, we do offer a sheet that says you can decline to take feature matches. Because we actually had to take quite a bit of time entering the decks beforehand so that our app masters only have to search for your deck list when putting cards into play instead of the whole card database.
Yeah.
We generally start preparing before the players actually get their pairings. So we end up in a situation where if you decline after we've already did all that, we miss our opportunity to take a feature match.
Exactly.
So we have a sheet that players can sign to say, I do not want to be featured until the top cut.
Yeah, so it's up to you to when you come to the event, you can sign it, but then obviously when we get to the top cut, it's
just if you don't want to be featured, please sign that form because you have to accept if we are, if you get picked.
Yeah, exactly. So the reason this is so interesting is because Michael Forner, who was in the finals of the last European Championship, wasn't it?
I believe so.
Yeah, the one with Marcello. It was him versus Marcello.
Michael and Marcello both went to Worlds that year.
Yep, exactly. So
I finished 3rd and 4th, respectively.
Yeah, and Michael is currently playing something really, really off the wall.
Well, it's pretty spicy.
Yeah, it's not even in our app. It's that random of a deck. It's not even close to a deck. It's not like it's Zephyr that's kind of like
there's other,
Pendulum.
and then it's hiding even further in the darkness.
Yeah, there's like maybe 30 people who we don't have their deck names in the system, and he is one of them. So we are calling it Phantom Knight Hero.
It's basically the dark heroes.
Yeah, it's Dark Heroes. I mean, any deck that contains Destiny Hero Malicious gets 2 thumbs up from me as far as I'm concerned. It could only be better if he's playing Destiny
Heroes,
Draw.
Elemental Heroes. We've got
Vision Heroes.
Yes, somewhere.
Yeah, Vision Hero Vion.
Yes, we've got all different types of heroes. We've got Armageddon Knights. We've got a lot of dark heroes for us.
There's a lot of spice.
Oh yes, it'll be super interesting. And he's here in the top 32, so he could have a run on this completely outside of deck. He's also playing 60 cards just for good measure.
Yeah. However, our opponent...
Go big or go home, right?
Yeah, definitely go big, he chose. Our opponent is Ilias Rodios from
Greece.
Greece, yeah. I almost went with a different country, but Greece is the correct one.
Guess Spain.
No, I wasn't going to go with Spain. I was going to go with Italy. It's usually Italians. They're very good at the game, so, it's a good guess to have when we're at this stage. Anyway, so he's playing the pure Sky Striker deck, which I don't think we've had on stream
not
yet.
featured this weekend.
No.
Pure, a lot of people deciding to go with the Trickstar engine or various Mech Knights just to sort of boost the power. We've not seen any Pure on this weekend. This will be the first time you're seeing either of these decks.
Yeah.
So it should be super interesting to see how it plays out. I must give advantage to Michael Forner on this by having something so far off the radar that it's going to be almost impossible for Ilias to have practiced this kind of matchup.
Yeah, exactly. Looking at the win rates of the two players, Michael Forner with 15 tournaments has a 76.8% win rate. That's very strong.
That's high in a high number of tournaments as well to back that up.
Yeah, and followed by Ilias's win rate. Just 5 tournaments, but 66%, so that's pretty strong as well.
It's strong, but I honestly think he's on the back foot. We've got a former last year's Worlds player who's here again with something even more unique. I imagine as soon as he put his deck on the table, Ilias was like, oh god, no, not this.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah,
he knew something was suspicious as soon as he saw this wad of cards coming down. He's like, oh, I'm ready.
You know that there's a lot of spice involved when there's 60 cards.
JY sat there going, I'm interested. I'm invested now.
Yeah. So just to have, all we've really got here is to have a look at what Sky Striker Pure did across the whole of the tournament, which was 49%. If we have a quick look at
49% win ratio against every other deck.
Every other deck, yeah. Including Michael's, if he did happen to come up with Sky Striker Pure, that's somewhere in there. But looking at the win rates, it's looking pretty good, apart from against Goki, in terms of the meta decks, that is. And it has an awful win rate against Gem Knights.
It's got a very good win rate against normal heroes. It's 100%. But only one match played.
yeah, exactly. Again, there's nothing it was really too bad against. Oh, apart from the Mech Knight version of Sky Strikers and the Sky Striker Trickstars, it has a really
abysmal win rate.
Yeah,
against.
really
That's
awful.
like 37 and 38%, right?
Yeah, exactly. But the Goki match is not as bad. It looks like Sky Striker Pure wasn't the best choice, but again, this doesn't take into account the players.
Yeah, the player skill, the win of the dice roll, there's a lot of things that come into factor that our stats can't. But for that, we have Oliver Gurman and Thomas Rose to walk you by the play-by-play so you can see if the stats hold up.
Yeah, let's shoot it over to those guys.
All right, guys, I hope you are ready. This sounds like a really cool top 32 match that we have in store for you. What's your pick for the winner of this match?
I really want to see the Phantom Knight Hero deck come through. I think the deck is super exciting. I love it when people come up with their own deck, a little homebrew, and it's successful. I'm just very excited to see what cards are in the deck, but I'd love to see it go further as well.
It's going to be very interesting to see, because we talked about that. We said that the Italians and the Greek players, both of these countries, really, really good when it comes to conversion rates, keeping their players in the field. So it's going to be a meeting of the masters in the top 32. Let's head over to the table where Ilias, Rodios and Michael Forner are getting their game on.
So I think just off the shot there, we saw Michael Forner winning the die roll, I believe. So he'll be able to take first here if he chooses. I assume that most 60-card decks will want to be choosing first and go through some of the interesting tech choices that he's chosen to fill out this list of 60 cards.
Yeah, what is the reason in this deck to play 60 cards? In other decks, of course, it's cards like the grass looks greener. Does he have a card like that that tells you, okay, you need to play 60 cards?
So the real linchpin of the deck for Michael Forner is Isolde. All of his plays are going to be based around that, and if you want to make some huge plays with Isolde, you need to be playing a lot of equip spells. We see here there are 5 equip spells in the main deck: Living Fossil, Divine Sword, Phoenix Blade, Axe of Fools, Moon Mirror Shields, and Noble Arms Arts
Look at that.
Fiduciary.
We see a hero lives with a huge investment of 4,000 life points, and it gets countered by Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring.
I'm not sure what Michael can do from that.
That's just... Oh my god, that hurts so much. 4,000 life points just thrown away there for that one hand trap, as we like to call them. And you can tell he's a bit stunned here.
Even if there were to be a follow-up play for Michael, he's staring down a Psyframe Gear Gamma in hand for Ilias.
Well, Ilias must be feeling really, really confident. Sorry to have you interrupted there, but that looked like a train wreck, and I couldn't look away, so I just had to watch it. So suddenly Michael Forner is shifting gears. It's almost like he's putting in reverse, and says, okay, I'm just gonna special summon in defense position, set one card, and say, it's your turn now.
Michael has to hope that his Masked Hero Dark Law will carry him through, but we know that as soon as a card to search is activated for Ilias, the Mask Change 2 is going to come down, take away the Shade Brigandine, and summon that Masked Hero Dark Law. If he activates the effect to banish a card from hand, the Gamma is going to be devastating. I think that's how we're going to see this play out, and I can only assume that we'll be going to Game 2 almost immediately here.
Alright, so far so good. Your prediction came true.
So the Foolish Burial Goods won't trigger the effect of Dark Law to banish a card from hand, but if Ilias is able to bait that effect activation before placing a monster onto his own side of the field, then the Dark Law is going to be immediately taken down by that Psyframe Gear Gamma.
He's just double checking the effect again. Masked Hero Dark Law, there were times when this card could single-handedly win games. I think that was also true this weekend. In this particular match right now, it looks a little bit less likely.
So it will hit the board before the resolution of that Foolish Burial Goods, preventing the send from hitting the graveyard, so taking a little bit of advantage out of the play for Ilias, but
just a little bit.
do we see any cards in hand for Ilias? The Sky Striker Mech Armory, is that the field spell? No, it's the equip spell. So
yeah, bring it up for you guys.
I don't think Ilias is going to have any way to trigger the on-field effect of that Masked Hero Darklaw, the activated effect. So obviously the continuous effect is going to be very powerful for Forner here, but the on-field activated effect won't be triggerable, so it might just survive through that Psyframe Gear Gamma that threatens to strip everything away.
That's very interesting to see. Like I mentioned it, Masked Hero Darklaw, he has been game deciding before. Gonna be interesting to see how Ilias Rodios is gonna be dealing with it. What other strategies can he apply here?
Well, the obvious play here open is the Hornet drones into a Shizuku, because the Hornet drones will not go to the graveyard, so Kagari wouldn't be able to add it back. Shizuku could trigger the effect of the Darklaw in the end phase, but by then he will control a monster on his side of the field, and he won't be able to activate that Gamma.
It's a tricky situation.
So Ilias stuck with a hand that is almost perfect, but doesn't quite work the way he needs it to.
Yeah, so now he gets to activate the effect.
Cards in hand here not being updated live, unfortunately. Afterburners being added to hand to be played the following turn.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Forner will be really hoping that he can hit that with the effect of his Darklaw here. I think there are 4 cards in hand for Ilias. So if the 1 in 4 roll hits that Afterburner, Ilias is in a really rough place.
They have to double check what number it is. So here we go. I think we have half of it correctly again. The other half, yeah, we got it now. And we also know that the top deck was a Monster Reborn. Sorry, he was starting with the Monster Reborn. I shouldn't get too excited about that. He's got a Sky Striker Mobilized Engage.
With 3 spells engraved.
That's also pretty
what a
good
setup.
It's almost, yeah, I think it's even better in this situation. Just after coming back from that 4,000 life point investment that didn't reap any rewards for Michael Forner, I'm surprised that he's not just hanging in there, he's actually commanding the pace of the game.
Yeah, Forner searching the Eagle Booster. Can we pull up the text of that card, please?
Yes, we can.
This is not one of the Sky Striker mecha cards that we see in the typical Trickstar Sky Striker deck.
Yeah, as always, you cannot control any monsters in your main monster zones. You can target one face-up monster on the field. It is unaffected by card effects this turn, except its own.
So it's an effect very similar to Forbidden Lance that will enable him to play onto his own Darklaw, preventing the destruction by that Sky Striker maneuver Afterburners.
And it also says if you have 3 or more spells in your graveyard, which is the case, it cannot be destroyed by battle this turn. So it's even better than the lands in terms of providing protection.
Yeah, this is really looking very strong for Forner. He has access to Ancient Cloak in his hand now. He could use his Monster Reborn if he chooses to on that Ash Blossom. After the attack, less of a strong option. He no longer has an extra monster zone available to him as was presented by the Shizuku. He could have made a play before the battle phase, but not much left to him at this point. So he'll probably just opt to set the Eagle Booster and pass turn. Possibly also set the Ancient Cloak if he wants to use his normal summon for the turn and wall off some damage.
Yeah, but he seems to know exactly what he's doing. Not surprising, we talked about his record. He went to Worlds before, he's been playing creative decks before. I would be surprised if anything surprises him in this tournament. And that Darklaw also taking away the advantage, the possible advantage for that engage that Ilias Rodios just drew into.
Yeah, Forner from a hand that seemed to be completely taken apart by that initial Ash Blossom has really fought back into the controlling position in this game.
Yes. And you can also see it on the face. That story has been told by the facial expression of Ilias Rodios, who just like had to sigh really. He's like, this is not what I was signing up for when I said I'm going to win the top 32.
Well, he won't be prepared for anything like this matchup, certainly. Just setting one card to his side of the field. The Sky Striker Equip spell, I believe.
It's a mech armory, yeah. Hercules base.
Forner continues the strategy with just one monster on field. He wants to keep his main monster zones completely empty so that that Eagle booster that he searched out will be live in the opponent's turn.
Yeah, Dark Law is, as he often does, laying down the law here. It's the only monster that Michael has, but it's single-handedly bringing this game to a tie almost with 4,700 versus the 4,000 life points that Michael Forner has. And Ilias Rodios really needs an answer for this card, and in fact he needs two answers for this card, thanks to that Sky Striker Mecha Eagle booster.
He does have the ability, I think, to force through a destruction. If he, with the Widow Anchor here, he can chain it to the Eagle booster. So he will negate the effect and take control. Yeah, then the Eagle booster resolves, preventing it from being destroyed by that first card activated. So he'll take control of it, and it will not be destroyed by the Chainlink 1.
Yeah, quite smart. Now the question is whether the spell card is going to the graveyard or not. Michael Forner's graveyard is going to his graveyard or not. First the chain resolves, and while the chain resolves, the cards are staying on the field. So that means we go through all of these effects, which results in Dark Law switching sides, and then the cards that were participating in that chain are being sent to the graveyard, or in this case banished from play. And
I think they should probably be banished, because by the time that the chain has resolved, the Eagle has prevented Dark Law's effect from being negated any longer. But of course the Dark Law will then be under Ilias control, and so my prediction would be that only Forner's spell card will be banished.
That is what I'm saying. That only Forner's spell card is being banished, yes. And apparently there's an appeal because of this question. I think Michael Forner is not happy with... and the question is whether Anchor resolves before Eagle is what the...
So Anchor will certainly resolve before Eagle, but does that mean that the card will change sides and stay under Ilias control after the Eagle resolves, or will the Eagle somehow force it back into Forner's control?
So basically Thomas is telling us that it remains negated afterwards. So yeah, in either case, there's the appeal. So now we have to wait for the head charge for a tiny little bit.
It's possible that the final outcome here could be that the Dark Law ends up in the main monster zone for Michael Forner. If it is taken control of at Chainlink 3, and then the effect to take control of it is subsequently negated and it returns to Michael Forner, it would be returning to the main monster zone.
So the question is, he doesn't take control of that monster because he doesn't have 3 spells.
Oh yes, of course. So there's no spell threshold.
So that entire part of the effect doesn't trigger.
Yeah, I was getting way ahead of myself.
Yeah, I know. It's understandable, because normally you play the Widow Anchor when you have those 3 spells in your graveyard. So in this case, only the first part of the effect of Sky Striker Mecha Widow Anchor comes into it's been taken into account. You target one face-up effect monster on the field, negate its effects until the end of this turn, and the rest doesn't apply.
So the question here is simply whether or not the effect is negated after the resolution of Chainlink 2. Is it a lingering effect that is applied once the Widow Anchor resolves, or it is a continuous effect that would then subsequently be negated at Chainlink 2?
Yeah, the thing is, the way I understand it, the Eagle booster says that the target is unaffected by card effects except its own. And that's not something that it says, that Eagle booster says, this card now has new effects. These are new effects that are being bestowed upon the card by Eagle booster. So even if you play the Widow Anchor that says that the card itself doesn't have any effects, that might still mean that the other effects that have been bestowed upon it by Eagle booster could still be applied. They could still be active. And
the issue here is that the Widow Anchor will resolve before that Eagle booster as a higher chain link.
Yes, yes. but not being 100% sure here. So we will have to wait for the head judge. This might take a little bit longer. And the head judge has just arrived in our area, but he's first getting a briefing by the table judge. So he will run him through the situation, so he comes to the table prepared. Then he's going to interview both players and ask them again what happened, so he can make sure that everybody's on the same page and that there's no misunderstanding what happened. And then once that has happened, he's going to give his ruling. And now we are going to see Arne in action, one of our head judges this weekend.
Yeah, it's fortunate that I don't think that there's much grey area for communication about what actions took place. It's just about a ruling with what is the resolution of these incidents.
Yeah, how does it play out, the whole thing? That is the question here, yeah. So Arne is just listening to the players. It's mostly Michael Forner doing the talking here. Now the chain is resolving. Nothing gets banished because that effect is apparently negated by the Dark Law.
So the ruling is that the Widow Anchor, having resolved before the Eagle Booster, is applying a lingering effect, not a continuous effect, to the Dark Law.
Right, and now he's able to go for engage without having to fear that the Dark Law is punishing him for that again. As always, if something like this happens, extra time is going to be applied to the match.
I believe that the feature clock was stopped for the duration of the ruling.
That works.
It was stuck on 30 minutes and 41 seconds for a good long time there.
That's very likely. I'm not sure who's operating the clock, to be honest, if it's one of our volunteers at the table or if it's one of the tech crew in the back. So I'm just going to double check the time, but we can assume that it's something around 30 minutes remaining in this round. And Michael Forner now clearly less happy than before with how this game is going. Still very much in a good position, at least for the time being.
Yes, but at this point, Ilias really gets to turn on the gas and start making his plays with those Sky Striker Ace monsters. He has an opportunity to get Ray into his graveyard here that was previously denied by that negation effect of Dark Law. Oh, sorry, the banishment.
The banish effect, yeah. The lingering effect, as sometimes we call it, it's a continuous effect. And now Kagari hit play. And Michael double-checked what it does. It's a bit surprising. I think he played against Sky Striker once or twice this weekend.
Well, he's playing the cards in his own deck, but he might be checking if there's any important wordings for interactions here.
Sure. So now we see multi-role being played.
And the Hercules base activated on the Ray, the Kagari.
And we cannot forget, I mean, at the moment the only card on the field is Dark Law for Michael Forner. And Ilias Rodios is putting in the work to get rid of that Dark Law. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to finish him off, though, at least from what he's been telegraphing so far in this turn.
But Ilias here picking up a draw on top of the search for this engage.
He managed to get 3 in there, yeah. Not bad. That happened quite quickly, that he ended up with 3 cards in his graveyard. Spell cards, to be precise.
Is that a second Widow Anchor added to hand?
It is, yes.
And then there will be 1 additional draw.
So now the Widow Anchor would allow him to get control over the card. Which could be enough damage.
Yeah,
should be enough damage.
With Forner at 4,000 life, Kagari plus Dark Law is going to be enough for lethal damage here.
Yeah, Ilias Rodios just going through the moves here. Michael Forner, I think he has a feeling that he knows what's coming here. He doesn't have anything in his hand to stop this from resolving. And unless we're mistaken, Widow Anchor should bring the desired effect here, which means Dark Law switches sides and suddenly he's going up against his former master, against Michael Forner. And that would be game deciding.
2 cards being set to the field. I'm not sure what's happened. Oh no, of course the Eagle Booster is still active.
Right, the Eagle Booster.
preventing the Widow Anchor from being used at all.
That is a very good point, and that chain was a lot more confusing than I thought.
So, despite the fact that the Dark Claw is negated, it is still unaffected by any future resolutions by that Eagle Booster.
Yeah. So Dark Claw is gonna hold its ground. It's gonna stand there like a protective wall, basically, for Michael Forner.
And Ilias picking up a Mind Crush off that one random draw, and the end phase search from his Shizuku turns it on. You can activate that card only if you have a card in your hand that you would be able to discard if you call a card that's not present in your opponent's hand.
Does he know any cards in Michael's hand?
As yet, he doesn't know any cards, but if Michael were to draw a search card, the Mind Crush could be really strong. So we see the pickup is the Mask Change. Having a quick play activation to interrupt things could be another really important part here. If Widow Anchor is used to take control of the Dark Claw, the Mask Change could be changed from hand if there's another masked hero in the extra deck.
However, the Mind Crush could foil that plan.
Unlikely, given that Ilias doesn't know about the Mask Change in hand.
How did you just pick it up?
It was drawn for turn.
Okay, so it's just a random draw. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Sorry.
The only masked hero in the extra deck for Forner is 2 copies of Dark Claw. So there's potential for another Dark Claw to be summoned with Ancient Cloak, but I don't believe that Mask Change can... can we bring up the text of Mask Change? Does it have to be a different named hero?
Oh, sorry. With the same attribute than the sent monster had when it was on the field. So
he can simply just trade one for the next.
Yeah, which doesn't sound like a very effective play, but if you're dodging a targeting effect that way, can be very effective.
Another important thing to be considering here is how many spell cards are in the graveyard for Ilias.
Sorry.
How many spell cards do we have in the graveyard for Ilias?
I think we're looking at 4 now.
That's considerably more than 4 by the looks of things.
Yeah.
6 total. The effect of his Shizuku on the field is going to be adjusting the attack of opponent's monsters for the number of spell cards in Ilias' graveyard. So Forner needs to be careful if he chooses to try and attack over and destroy that Shizuku by battle, just which manipulations are going on to the attack points.
That's kind of sneaky. Michael Forner, the entire time the entire game he takes his time. Now he plays a monster, he's like, okay, I attack. Before his opponent really has a chance to double check and make sure he's not missing anything.
I'm surprised. Has Forner already used his Kagari? He could at this point simply link away the Ray to summon Kagari to the zone his opponent's Shizuku points to.
If he's aware of that play.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Forner isn't using that extra zone left open to him to start making some plays. Ray, also a warrior, would allow him to summon Isolde into that extra zone. I feel like Forner has a lot of plays open to him that he's not really going for here.
Right. Or he's still going for it.
He could, of course, activate the on-field effect of that Ancient Cloak before he links it away as well, boosting the attack of his Dark Claw up to 3,200. No, instead he goes straight for the Link Summon.
I find it fascinating how he's hanging in there with those 4,000 life points. That big upset at the start of the duel doesn't really do anything when you think about it.
Yeah, there was just no real opening play for Ilias under the Dark Claw. I think Ilias is questioning whether the Ray that was reborn by Forner should be sent to the graveyard or the banished zone. Dark Claw, of course, doesn't care which side of the field the monster leaves from, only which graveyard it was destined to hit.
Yeah, that is correct.
The effect of Isolde being activated here to search for a warrior This is the first card that Ilias would know about in hand for Forner. He may choose to Mind Crush it immediately, and if he does so, crucially, he will gain the information that Michael is holding that Mask Change in hand. So that, even if he uses the Mind Crush to take out a card that has very limited effect on the duel here, he could be gaining some key information about how to play around the Dark Law on the field.
Yeah. There were times when players would play cards that weren't all that great just to get a peek at the opponent's hand. Like the card that allowed you to send one card from your deck.
This Trap Dust Shoot.
No, those were good cards. No, I remember that there were cards that just revealed the opposing hand without really doing anything effectively. And the good players played some of these cards, especially Adrian Madai, just so he knew what his opponent was holding on to then play around the cards. It was a -1 for him. He didn't mind that he lost the card. He just needed the information because then he could play so much better and win the game that way.
Yeah, historically, I know that many of the strongest players in the game have always said that with a Trap Dust Shoot, obviously now banned for good reason, the real value wasn't in taking away a card from your opponent's hand. It was in knowing exactly which cards you would need to play around or not for the next few turns.
Yes. And I think that would be more true than ever in today's metagame. When it's faster than ever, when every single card can make a difference, that is when this would be even more important.
Yeah, we've seen recently Mark of the Red Lotus, a trap card with 2,000 life points cost. You get to look at your opponent's hand and banish a card for some duration. There's debate as to at what point the card actually returns to hand. I think there was some inconsistencies between the database and the Duel Links ruling, so there was some debate as to how long the card remains banished. But simply having that effect to... is Forner allowed to summon an Armageddon Knight here? He just added one to hand. I think he's just caught that same interaction.
Yeah, and the interesting part is that I think it was all one motion, and that's why the judge allowed him to take it back. Because very often when you search for a card and it's a legal target, and then you do something with it, like you say, I summon it to the field, even if that's not allowed.
Well, the effect was to summon directly to the field.
To the field,
which he wasn't even able to attempt. So there was no point at which it could be returned to a legal game state
that makes all the
without
difference,
fully changing the target. So this the second effect of Isolde. The first effect added the Armageddon Knight. The second summons a Vision Hero Vion. And here we might see some of Luke's favorite cards coming into play.
The cross cards?
Those are some of his favorites, but he mentioned before Destiny Hero Malicious. He was very excited to see in this match.
Oh, okay.
Or potentially sending a Shadow Mist to search for a Malicious. No, he goes straight for Mali.
I haven't seen that card in a couple of years. Is he playing Destiny Draw?
We can check the lists, but I don't think he would.
No, he's not. It's too slow. He's playing a Moon Mirror Shield.
Yes, that is an equip spell.
I know. It's the card that ruined the sneak preview. Because when you open it, you couldn't lose the sneak.
Yeah, it's one of 5 equip spells in his main deck. He wants to be able to summon level 4 monsters with his Assault, and critically that's one of the attractions of playing 60 cards in this sort of build, is that you need to play so many equip spells to be able to summon out a level 4 monster with the effect of Assault, and you don't want to be opening with lots of them, so by playing such a large number in absolute terms, you can dilute the frequency of drawing them by playing a lot of cards.
I just got the news that Michael has been awarded a slow play warning at some point. That was 7 minutes ago, and we're gonna have 3 additional minutes in the round.
Okay. Yeah, I think both players have been playing fairly slowly at times here. In many ways, it's understandable. There's a lot of interesting hands, and the very first turn we saw nobody's game plan was going in the way that they had expected it to.
Yeah.
So both players having to make things up as they go along to some extent.
And again, he's thinking about his next play. I understand it's not easy, but he needs to be careful. If he doesn't speed it up, there is a chance that he's gonna lose this game due to a game loss, of course.
So here we see the Nightmare Unicorn coming down. He's likely to discard the Armageddon Knight in hand. We know that he can't use it. No, instead goes for the Silent Boots, wanting to resolve the effect in the graveyard. He has access to a Phantom Knight's Fogblade in his deck, so he can banish it to search for a piece of interaction. There's also Phantom Knight's Shade Brigandine that he could search, but given that he already has a copy of that card in his graveyard, he wouldn't then be able to activate it this turn. So we've just seen here Ilias taking full advantage of that information gain, activating Mind Crush to take out the known card from Forner's hand.
Yes. And nicely played by him. That is again one of those games where we cannot really say, hey, this guy, there's no mess ups or anything like that. Both of these players seem to make the most of their respective decks.
Yes. Forner here can go for a Link 4 play. Which Link 4s does he have access to? There's the Gunblar Dragon. Is there a Firewall Dragon also in the extra deck?
Nope.
So yeah, we'll be seeing Gunblar coming out here. I think he already has the Divine Sword Phoenix Blade in hand. So he'll be able to take out that last card in hand for Ilias.
He might have returned it just now, because I mean the app again is a little bit behind here because it says that Mask Change is still around. I think that's no longer true, right?
Mask Change is still in hand.
It's still in hand.
It was revealed when Mind Crush was played,
Right, okay.
calling Armageddon Knight.
So, but no Phoenix Blade then, because he only has that one card in hand.
He may, of course, not have sufficient warriors in his graveyard that he's happy to banish at this point. That shouldn't be the case, though. We know that there is an Assault and an Armageddon Knight both in graveyard. Neither of those are any big loss for Forner here. Instead, he goes straight to the battle phase, wanting to put some life points in between the two players.
I would argue the straight part, but yes.
Perhaps. It's been a long turn.
It's been a very long turn, yes.
So I think this will be 200 damage over the Shizuku. Should the Mind Crush have gone to Ilias' banished zone? I don't believe that Dark Lore is currently negated.
Why would it be?
Yep,
Because,
I think the judges have just caught that one.
Right. It was for that one turn. That also took a little bit longer, but that was the previous turn.
No, this is still the same turn.
No.
That the Mind Crush was played. Yeah, it was.
Oh, the Mind Crush, yes. But I mean the negation effect.
Yes,
that was the turn before. Right. So here's the Widow Anchor.
Is being used to prevent the 3,000 damage swing, by the looks of things.
Yeah. But he cannot use the Mask Change here. That's the wrong target, right?
He
I mean, he would have had to use
could
it
only
before
use
it
Mask
switched
Change
sides.
on a hero monster.
Yeah.
His Mask Change 2 could be used on any dark monster with a level, but even Topologic Gunblar Dragon, a Link monster, doesn't have a level.
Could he have attacked in opposite order, but then it wouldn't be enough damage. So either way, he doesn't win the game here. Is the takeaway basically?
Yeah, we will be at least making it to the next turn, albeit I expect Forner will banish those that copy of Silent Boots, Phantom Knight's Silent Boots in his grave to search for a Phantom Knight's Fogblade, really locking down the options available to Ilias. I feel like Ilias might be just wasting a bit of time playing on here, and I don't know whether it suits him to do so.
Well, maybe he's hoping for another opening by Michael Forner with A Hero Lives, and then he can just get those 4,000 swing for free, basically.
Well, A Hero Lives, yeah, if that were to come down early in the next game...
it's very likely that Michael Forner might just shuffle up. Or not impossible, at least.
The end of match procedure does alter a little bit in the top cut,
Yes.
where of course you cannot have a draw, so there's no need to shuffle up immediately. You know that you will always be able to play a very small game 3, and even if it's only 4 turns, that's most of what any game lasts to anyway. I think this might only be turn 5 in this match.
Yeah. It's still first duel, actually.
Yeah, and Ilias hanging on, but without any real plays here. So we'll see another Masked Hero Dark Claw hitting the board adjacent to the Gumblar Dragon.
And I think that's going to be it.
Ilias has seen enough.
He's feeling like, okay, I could deal with one, just barely. But the second one is just too much to handle. And with that, Michael Forner gets that first hard-fought victory in the top 32, sorry. The top 32 of the European Championship.
Yeah, after being heartbroken at the loss of his A Hero Lives on the very first turn to the Ash Blossom, he really fought on there.
Yeah. So a little bit more than 15 minutes remaining in this match. Let's take a look at the side decks.
So the pressure is on Ilias here. He needs to turn this around. What do we have in the side deck here that might help him do so? He'll be playing first in this second game.
He's got more hand traps at his disposal, which traditionally don't do that much when you go first. I don't think he's going to be a fan of Shared Ride here.
There may be some merits to the Shared Ride. Obviously, Isolde, we know, adds cards to deck. The Phantom Knights Engraved could add some cards, but it's not the same as the Gouki and the Trickstar Skytriker decks that we've seen, where they're really reliant on adding a large number.
Yeah. So, unlikely. The Twin Twist is... not really. I mean, there's nothing that is being set and stays on the field for a longer period of time.
Yeah, and also Night Beam to no effect here.
Same story.
Infinite Impermanence.
That's
obviously, it's in its element for the most part. When you're playing second, it functions as quite literally a hand trap. But you can still set it and use it in much the same way that we saw things like Fiendish Chain being brought to the field long ago.
So Michael Forner, with those 60 cards, there should be some cards that he's not feeling too happy about in this particular matchup. He's got Effect Veilers, Ghost Reap and Winter Cherries, Twin Twister, Gozen Match, and then in one copy each of Imperial Order, well, because that's the only copy that's legal, Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion and Sky Striker Maneuver Afterburner. That's an additional copy, if I'm not mistaken. Oh no, he's not playing in the main deck at all.
No, his Sky Striker cards in the main deck is 3 copies of Engage, 3 copies of Hornet Drones, and just the 1 copy of Eagle Boosters for the protection on that Masked Hero Dark Claw that really can pull through by itself in a lot of these matches.
Yeah, so Michael Forner will probably try to land the hero very soon again. And Ilias Rodios will probably try to avoid just that or assemble a field of his own that is just impossible to overcome for Michael Forner.
Yeah, we see Ilias maybe aiming to get to his Darkest Diabolos, Lord of the Lair, and I don't know how many outs to that card Forner has. Huge 3,000 attack points, can't be destroyed by, can't be tributed by your opponent's card effects, and can't be targeted. So Forner really having to get a lot of attack points. If he hard draws something like a Moon Mirror Shield, he may be able to simply attack over it.
It would be hilarious if that card ends up winning him the game. Because it's not something that we see that often in Constructed. And by that often I mean, or not that often, I mean not ever. Almost not ever, at least. And it appears that Ilias Rodios is allowing Michael Forner to go first.
That's not what I expected to hear. This feels like another one of those matches where it may be a case of you go first and then the combo resolves and suddenly there's nothing left.
Yeah. His opening hand, 2 copies of Area 0, Hornet Drones, Multi-Roll and Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave, of course, not that good without any hand traps. What else can you do with the card?
Called by the Grave, very strong for just simply negating any effects that activate in the graveyard. So You can take away targets for Monster Reborn. You can negate Gouki monsters when they're sent there. Their effects trigger to add new cards. Cooled by the Grave, you can banish that and just take it out of play. But this looks like a very, very strong opening for Forner here. Playing into no hand traps. He's going to end on a really formidable board here.
He's got a Dark Grapher to kick things off, to open up a line of plays. Discarding a Malicious, just to show his opponents how it's done. And he's also got the Silent Boots in the graveyard now.
So that Malicious will be able to special summon another Malicious to the field. He also has access to either Phantom Knight's Shade Brigandine or Fogblade through that Silent Boots that was sent initially. Ilias is just going to be sitting here wondering why he chose to let Forner play first, as he stares at his 5 spell cards and no interactions.
And Michael Forner also has a Twin Twisters. Is that something he's going to set, or is...
Oh, absolutely. The Twin Twisters will definitely be set before the end of the turn.
And what are the targets here?
We see the Sky Striker Aerospace, I believe is the field spell for the Sky Striker deck. Not necessarily one that you want to destroy, as when it's destroyed, it can summon a Sky Striker Ace Ray from the deck. But I don't know, it might need to go to the graveyard for that effect to trigger. And if there's a Dark Claw on the field, can we pull up the text of Sky Striker Airspace there?
Yes. You can target one other card you control, excavate the top 3 cards of your deck. You can add one excavated Sky Striker card to your hand, shuffle the rest into your deck. Then, if you excavated a Sky Striker card, send the targeted card to the graveyard.
So you can prevent that effect from resolving if you use a Twin Twisters to destroy it before the resolution, but typically, if it's destroyed, you would be then special summoning a Ray. So does it need to go to the graveyard to get that second effect to trigger?
If this card in the field zone is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, so it's very specific that it's sent to the graveyard.
By using Twin Twisters in conjunction with his Masked Hero Darklaw, Forner will really be able to deny a lot of the options open to Ilias.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he's going to feel pretty good about his chances here. Before anything else happens, here's an activation of the Phantom Knights.
Yeah, we see a Link 4 coming down here. It looks like the Gunblood Dragon will be making an appearance. Forner can then follow that up, summoning another Destiny Hero Malicious from his deck into the zone that it points to. He wants to construct his hand perfectly so that when he discards a random 2 cards, he's in complete control of which cards actually get sent to the graveyard.
Yeah.
I don't know that he can do so entirely precisely, but he'll be able to put himself in a position where there are no cards in his hand that he specifically needs to keep. So that mask change, he'll be saving it for when he passes turn. Possibly even in the opponent's draw phase, he will immediately flip it face up and get that Darklaw onto the field.
I wouldn't be surprised, considering how much of a hindrance this card can be.
So there are 4 cards in hand total for Forner. He'll be discarding a random 2 at this point. So 2 cards hit the graveyard. He'll be hoping for the sword. Yep, and he gets it. That card, of course, can be added straight back to hand whenever he chooses.
So he's probably going to feel good about those odds.
So he'll get back that sword once more. And then when he passes turn, he'll be able to activate that mask change and special summon the Darklaw again into the zone that the Gunblower is pointing to.
Seems like this deck is running like a well-oiled machine here. Even though it's not running super fast, but it is on its way to winning that marathon that we have here in form of a tournament. So where's he going to go from here?
So is he able to activate that same effect of his Topologic Gunblower again? What is the text?
If another monster special summoned to a zone, a link monster points to, so that includes itself. While it's on the field, discard 1 or 2 random cards, then your opponent discards the same number.
Yep, so he's activating that effect again here. I believe it's only a hard once per turn on the effect and no limitation on how many times you can activate the effect of your Gunblar Dragon in total. So he strips 2 cards on his own turn and then a further 2 cards now that it's passed over to Ilias' turn. These 2, of course, will now be banished as well.
I don't see a once per turn for this effect, to be honest.
Right at the end, you can only use 1 topologic Gunblar Dragon effect per turn and only once that turn.
Right.
So he used the same effect on 2 consecutive turns, once in his own main phase 1 and again in his opponent's draw phase.
This is why you play some of those cards that allow you to special summon during the opponent's turn, just so you can trigger it again.
Yeah, the synergy between Mask Change and the topologic Gunblar Dragon has really been showing itself very strongly here. And again, Forner reminding Ilias that every card at this point that he plays will be banished.
Yeah. Forner ever the gentleman if it advances his own position, basically. It's like, no, you put it in the wrong place. I can do it for you, no worries.
Kagari having access only to the first 2 cards discarded by the effect of Gunblar Dragon. He takes the airspace, leaving 2 cards in hand for Ilias.
There's 2 copies of airspace. Area 0.
I don't see any way that Ilias is able to come back into this game from here.
He doesn't strike us as somebody who's feeling like he's going to come back here. And Michael Forner, super calm and quiet now. Collected as well. Calm, quiet, collected. He must be happy with how this whole thing turned out in the end.
So Forner will be checking the effect of the airspace here, deciding whether he wants to use his Twin Twisters. He may let it resolve and then just simply activate the effect of Dark Law in response to the resolution.
And that is it. Michael Forner advances to the top 16 after a hard-fought match against Ilias Rodios. In the end, Italy prevails against Greece. We haven't seen that all that often, this matchup this weekend, but these are the 2 strongest nations in terms of
conversion rates.
We have some funny trivia regarding that for you guys. I'm gonna show that to you. This is, this is it. This is the top 64 duelist country breakdown. YouTube said that I mentioned earlier that Italy is now sending the most representatives in the top 64, considering that 600 players from Germany were here and only 153 or something from Italy. This is not something that the Germans going to take proudly. However, we can take another look at the top 32 breakdown, which is interesting because I have actually never seen this before. Suddenly, Italy has either been playing, a couple of guys must have been playing against each other, or they just really got unlucky. Italy now in 3rd place after that first round, and Greece is taking the 2nd place, Germany back in number 1.
Yeah, Germany dropping down initially and then back at the top. It's all mixing itself up and swapping around every single round. It'll be interesting to see who's progressing now to the top 16. Will we have more changes again?
Yeah, quite honestly, this is the most interesting country breakdown I've ever seen in a top cut. There is a good chance that we need to be right back with yet another feature match because the main event is already in overtime. So let's hear it from our analysts, what they had to say about the match before we're going to be back with our top 16 feature match. Let's head over to Matt and Luke.
Thank you very much, Ollie and Thomas. Matt.
Dark Law Gunblar, what a wombo combo, stripping multiple cards out of your hand, and they're all getting banished for good measure.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was crazy. That was an incredibly long game 1. There was slow play warnings issued. It was
I'm just in shock, to be honest. That was some insane combos there.
Well, you can see how it's carried him so well, especially when you've got Sky Strikers trying to desperately get cards into that graveyard, Gyoki trying to get cards into that graveyard, and you're just stripping them of all of those options. Yeah. And then actually finding a way to utilize Gunblar outside of the Gyoki Extraling, which is the only way we've sort of seen it played. When in North America, you're seeing it with Link Karibo, being able to tribute a token to come back in your opponent's turn to tag them for the 2. But hey, Michael's found out a way to do it in Europe. And it's served him really well as he's now going to progress onto the top 16.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
I mean, 4 cards away from your opening hand. That is simply devastating.
I just got to ask why Ilias let him go first in that second
game.
It was like Dark Law is like the heart and soul of his deck, and you don't want to see it on turn 1. Why on earth would you ever allow them to go first?
Yeah, I'm really shocked.
That almost feels like a punt in itself of the entire tournament.
Yeah.
But I guess maybe some part of that just comes from a lack of experience of playing against that deck.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we are very much well into time here for the main event. So we are going to be right back with the top 16 of the European Championships 2018. See you guys soon.